Monday morning, hopefully before a snow day on Tuesday. That's what I'm shooting for. Half-life. How about the points up there? So number 2, and these are half-life problems. So we're going to be using this formula that the amount after time passes is the principal times 1/2 to the t over half-life time. We're just going to plug stuff in for the most part. We have a half-life of 10,000 years. There's HL. This right here, he finds something, which means it's been stuck in the ground for a long time. This is the amount after time passes. An estimate of the original, there's P. How old is the deposit? So the question mark is what is time? So 1.5 equals the principal amount of 20 times 1/2 to the t over the half-life time of 10,000. Here's your setup. And you are required to do these by hand. You're still going to have to use a calculator to evaluate it, but you're going to have to do them by hand. One thing we always do is we isolate the base. The base here being 1/2, bases have exponents. So we divide by 20. And that'll give you the decimal 0.75 or the fraction 3/4, which I'm going to use. And you end up with that. And you should use fractions, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But you should use fractions whenever possible. Now we're going to do a technique called ln both sides. So I'm going to take the natural log of 3/4. It's going to be equal to the natural log of 1/2 to the t over 10,000. Now somewhere, I'm sure it's been taught by now, but a logarithm, argument a to the r, is equivalent to r log a. And natural logs are logarithms. So what you get to do is you get to move this t over 10,000 out front. Now we can go through the process of isolating t. We can multiply both sides by 10,000. And then we can divide both sides by the natural log of 1/2. And that'll give us our time. The time is 10,000 natural logs of 3/4 divided by the natural log of 1/2. Now, something you might see the state do to you is they actually try to make it a little bit harder sometimes to use calculators, because you can cheat. I mean, if you didn't understand logarithms, you could have typed this in, y1, y2, and gotten the correct decimal. But sometimes what they do is they put things in exact form answer, and this is an exact form answer, but what the state would do is they would write it like this: 10,000 natural logs of 3, I need a parentheses there, minus natural log of 4 over natural log of 1 minus natural log of 2. See if you can understand that. What I did is I took this property, the natural log of a over b is the natural log of a minus natural log of b. Either both of these are equivalent, but the state will probably do something like this because they're testing to see your knowledge of logarithms. But I'll show you they're equivalent. Math number, numerator over denominator, 10,000 natural logs of 3/4, sitting over the natural log of 1/2. There's your time, roughly 4,150 years. And the other way I typed it in was 10,000, set of parentheses, ln3 minus ln4, sitting over ln1 minus ln2. And they're the same thing. The time is about 4,150 years. Number 4, this is a true story. This happened way back when. I was about 6 years old then. But anyways, there was a disaster at a nuclear plant in Chernobyl, and European governments caught on to this by noticing radiation in the atmosphere. Russia never told them what happened. So anyways, we have some radioactive material. The hay in Austria was contaminated by iodine 131. It has a half-life of 8 days. If it is all right to feed hay to the cows when 10% remains, how long do the farmers have to wait to use this hay? So the goal here is that the amount after time is 10%. We're just going to use percentages. The principal would be 100% contamination. And I know that the half-life is 8 days. And again, I'm going to plug into this thing. Principal times 1/2 to the T over HL. So the goal is to get to 10%. I'm just going to change that to a 10. It's 100 times 1/2 to the time over 8. Now, if it bugs you that I'm using the percentages here, don't be, because the first thing you're going to do is isolate the base. You're going to divide out 100, and there's the 0.1 decimal you were looking for, because you know 10% is 0.1. At least you should. And that's what I have. I'm going to ln both sides. The natural log of a tenth, which I am going to write as 1 over 10, is equal to the natural log of a half raised to T over 8. I'm going to use this property right here. Natural log of 1 over 10 is T over 8 times the natural log of a half. And I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here. I'm going to multiply both sides by 8 and divide by the natural log of a half. 8 natural logs of 1 over 10 divided by the natural log of a half is my time. And again, I want to go over how the state might show you things like this. They might do this, and I'll use a bracket instead of parentheses. Natural logs of 1 minus natural logs of 10 over the natural log of 1 minus the natural log of 2. Those are both the same answer. One of them is just written in a more elegant form, which is this one. Fractions are generally just frowned upon, at least in things like logarithms, because they can be made to look prettier with whole numbers. But anyways, what do I know? By the way, I use the parentheses here. Brackets and parentheses are the same thing. They are as far as PEMDAS goes. Looks like we got about 27 days. After 27 days, they can feed the hay. 7. Newton's law of cooling. A car's oil temperature is usually maintained at close to 240 degrees. Not wanting to burn yourself because you're a pansy, you decide the oil needs to be 130 degrees before changing it. Past experience tells you this takes about 45 minutes. What is the cooling rate, R, of the oil if your shop is kept at 75 degrees? So what's this? This is the room temperature, TR. 130 is the temperature after time that you desire. T0 is the initial temperature, so 240. And you're told little t is 45 minutes. Your goal here is to figure out what R is. That's all your goal is. So just plug everything you have in. 130 equals parentheses 240 minus room temperature, 75, e to the negative R, and t was 45 minutes. And I'm looking at that thing right there. 240 minus 75 is 165. I don't like the way that looks, so I rewrote it. Divide by 165. Convert to a fraction if you need to, and you should. Or sorry, simplify the fraction. 26/33. And now what we're going to do is we're going to ln both sides. We'll have the natural log of 26/33 equal to the natural log of e to the negative 45r. We're going to use that property where exponents get moved out front for logarithms. Now, I've done this for a long time. There are so many kids, and I notice it when I teach pre-calc, and I notice it when I've watched enrollment kids do this. Natural log of E is and always will be. They forget that, but it's always going to be 1. ln E, first power, it's a 1. So this piece doesn't even matter. Your R is going to be the natural log of 26/33 sitting over -45. And again, I highly encourage you to write this out in a more traditional manner. Negative natural log, negative parentheses, natural log 26 minus natural log 33 over 45. So math number negative parentheses natural log 26 minus natural log 33. I forgot to close a set of parentheses. Second insert over 45. There's your R value, about 0.0053. There's your rate of decay. Man, I'm doing a lot of this sheet. 8. A right triangle with C as the right angle has side lengths A to B being 13, B to C being 7. And it says find the missing side length AC. I notice some of y'all don't draw triangles the way I do. Perhaps you should. AB is 13, BC is 7. Missing side length, I'll just call it X. X squared plus 7 squared is 13 squared. Pythagorean theorem. 13 squared would be 169, 7 squared would be 49, so X squared would be 120. X would be the root of 120. To get to 120, what do? You do 15 times something, don't you? 15 and 8, you can do better. Apparently I'm having a brain fart. I guess the best you can do on this is probably 4 times 30. Square root of 4 times 30. That's the best pair to use. So X would be 2 root 30. Now, that was the goal, find the missing side length AC. Now it says find the measure of the remaining angles A and B. So I'm just going to look at angle A, and I'm going to focus on the sine ratio. Sine of A is 7/13, and the opposite of the sine ratio is the arc sine. So the measure of angle A is the arc sine of 7/13. I put my calculator in degree mode, and it already is, looking right there. Arc sine, 7/13. You did this last year in geometry. Probably forgot it. It's about 32.58 degrees. I'm going to use trig for the angle B too. I'm going to do on angle B, I'm actually going to do cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. Cosine of B would be 7/13. So the measure of angle B is the arc cosine of 7/13. So second cosine, 7/13. No surprise, it's 57.42 degrees. The reason I said no surprise is because if I take that angle and add them together, I'll get 90, and 90 plus 90 is 180. Another one of these, number 9. Right triangle ABC has hypotenuse X, side BC. Find an expression of X for the missing side. While you're at it, find the sine of angle A. And again, you need to draw the way I draw, because the way you draw is wrong. BC is 12, hypotenuse would be X, and I don't know this side right here. I don't know it. Normally I'd call it X, but X is already taken care of. So I'm just going to call it little a. So little a squared plus 12 squared must equal X squared. That's 144. A squared is X squared minus 144. A would have to be the root of X squared minus 144. And don't be stupid. That's not x minus 12. Nothing you can do with that. It's done. It's done. Well, I wish I would ask for a different ratio. All it wants is sine. Let's change that to cosine. I hope I fix it. So what is the cosine of angle A? Cosine of angle A would be adjacent over hypotenuse. Root x squared minus 144, sitting pretty over an x. And again, this doesn't simplify. You cannot simplify root x squared minus 144. There's nothing you can do with it. I don't care what your last name is. I don't care what your first name is. You can't do it. 51. If log base 4 of x is 3, then x is what? Oh, that's easy. You shouldn't even need my help on this one. Just write down log is bay. Logarithm base b, argument a equal to something e is equivalent, at least has an equivalent inverse, b to the e equal to a. And then just think about it. The base here is 4. This will be your exponent. There is your answer. So what is x? If we just do our conversion, 4 to the third is x. That's 64 all day long. 46 ACT. When measuring from a point on the ground that is a certain distance from the base of a cell phone tower, the angle of elevation at the top is 41 degrees as shown below. The height of the cell phone tower is 200 feet. What is the distance in feet to the cell tower? So they want this length down here. What I notice is I have the opposite and adjacent side. That means that I'm thinking about the tangent ratio. The tangent of 41 degrees must be 200 over the unknown x. And then I just multiply both sides by x. X tangents of 41 degrees is 200. And then to solve for x, I divide by the tangent of 41. That's what I'm looking for. And it's not there. Wow. That's not a big surprise. It's really not. Look at that one right there. That's cotangent. So I don't know if you know this or not, but tangent is opposite over adjacent. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. So let's do the same work with cotangent. The cotangent of 41 degrees is x over 200. And to solve this one, you just multiply both sides by 200. And there you go. A couple of y'all are going to show no work as though you know how to do that. No, you don't, because you didn't learn your reciprocals last year. It's in your standards, you just didn't learn it. In the figure below, the tangent of theta is what? So to get to this point, what you do is you go right 3 and up 3. And then you just think about SOHCAHTOA. That's all you do. So the tangent ratio, if you're here at that little guy, which is hard to see, I think that's the omega symbol, is 3 over 3, which is 1. And there's your half-life homework. And you only have to do what? 4 problems on your own? Jeez. Some of y'all will be like, I just didn't have time to do it, Milbrath.